Welcome to National History Day in Iowa Insider Tips webinar on the documentary category. My name is Vania Boland, and I'm the state coordinator for the National History Day in Iowa program. Today, we're going to discuss the documentary category. A documentary should reflect your ability to use audio-visual equipment to communicate your topic's significance. The documentary category will help you develop skills in using photographs, film, video, audio, computers, and graphic presentations. Your presentation should include primary source materials and also be an original product. To produce a documentary, you must have access to equipment and be able to operate it. For the documentary category, I've invited Kaelee Wolf and Alivia Isaacson from Bettendorf, Iowa, to share their insider tips on the documentary category. So first, Kaelee and Alivia, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're excited to hear some advice from you on the documentary category.
Yeah, good to be here.
Awesome, thanks so much. So before we get started, can both of you share your experience with History Day? How many years you've been involved and the different levels you've reached?
So we've been doing this since sixth grade. Sixth grade, we just made it to regionals from our school building competition. Seventh grade, we were state finalists. Eighth grade, we made it to state again. And then this year, ninth grade, we became national finalists. We got top 10 in the nation.
That's awesome. So you guys have a lot of experience. And have you always done the documentary category?
No, actually. In sixth grade, we did an exhibit board, and that did not go as we wanted it to. So we're like, okay, scratch that idea. We're doing documentary.
Nice. So why did you go from exhibit to documentary? What was it about this category that you liked?
Well, we've both been making films since we were really little.
Just cheesy little movies and things like iMovie trailers. Like really, just since we were little kids, we've always done that. We like filming things.
Yeah, and after sixth grade, when we were first being introduced to NHG, we're like, we don't know what this is. We'll just do like a tri-board. So we showed up with our cardboard tri-board at regionals, and we saw these like big wooden ones. We're like, oh dang it, that's not really our thing. So then we heard about the documentary group, and we're like, hey, we've been making these films since we were really little. This might be a fun one to do. And we're like, okay, yeah, we'll try that. And I guess it worked out.
That's awesome. So how did you guys divide the work when building your documentaries? It sounds like you're a great team. So can you share some advice with other students who are thinking about doing a group project, how you go about dividing that work?
Yeah, well, we're really good friends, and we split work very nicely together. We're really good at dividing work evenly. And there's pretty much, when you're making a documentary, we both work together on everything, but there's sort of like two parts, and we each kind of like are the leader in that part. So when it comes to like the research and like writing the script, I tend to do that part, and because I'm really good at being able to put our thoughts into words. And then when it gets to like visual and audio editing, I'm less techie, and so she does that part of it.
That's awesome. So if you were speaking with a group of students who had never done the documentary category before, what would you tell them to consider before picking to do a documentary?
Don't have internet that is gonna die every 3 seconds. That's really annoying.
And you have to make sure you're really patient, because working with technology can be like a huge hassle, and technology will fail on you, and it might delete all of your work.
That's happened multiple times.
So you have to be super patient.
That's great advice. So what would you say to teachers who are new to the documentary category? What should they be aware of when working on a History Day documentary?
Probably knowing that technology can be really hard for some people, and giving them access to all like the technology and editing software that students will need to in order to create a documentary.
Yeah, and your students really, some people are just going to have a really great eye for what looks good in a documentary, and some students are going to have a lot more trouble realizing that. So it's a balance, how much help they need deciding whether or not something looks good.
That's great advice. Any additional tips you would give other teachers on how to support History Day students, no matter the category?
I mean, when we started in 6th grade, you really had no idea what we were doing. You didn't really grasp what the project was really about. And then by the time we got to 7th grade, we were starting to understand it. It's a huge learning curve because NHD is not really like any other project that you'll ever do. It's kind of its own thing. And so you really have to understand the format and how it works. And so, early on, we got help with our scripts. We got our scripts edited multiple times. But now that we're in high schoolers, this was our first year. And as high schoolers, we're a little more self-sufficient, and we probably only reached out to, maybe 2 or 3 people to take a look at our script.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing all that great advice. All right. So for creating a documentary, it's very different from other categories because of the technology that's necessary to build it. So before you get started, ask yourself the following questions. Am I interested in using computers, cameras, and other technology? Is creating a documentary the best way to showcase my topic? Are there enough still photographs related to my topic available, and can I use them in my documentary? Can I conduct and record interviews to include as film clips in the documentary? Do I have access to equipment that will be needed to make a documentary? So Kaelee and Alivia, in addition to these to consider for the category, do you agree with these points? And would you have any additional thoughts or suggestions that documentary students need to keep in mind before they either start their project or as they build it?
When you're picking to do the documentary category, you have to pick a topic that's a documentary topic. I mean, no one wants to sit there and watch 10 minutes of cave paintings because that's just not very interesting. I mean, in general, you're going to have a more recent topic, which can sometimes be a challenge as it is History Day. So yeah, you don't want to spend hours looking for photos because you're going to need a lot of them. So you need to pick a topic that is an NHG topic.
Yes,
that is made for documentaries.
Videos are so important because it makes a documentary go from good to great. Like just by having videos and those visuals instead of just zooming up on pictures and stuff, which I mean, that's fine to have, but videos definitely put it a step above.
So do you guys use background music in your documentaries? What are your thoughts on that?
We do. We are both super big music people. We play piano and we do other instruments and stuff. So we actually really, really enjoy working with the music.
Yeah, we like to add like dramatic effects through that to create a sense of mood and how like to portray a certain scene in our documentary. So I think that definitely makes it easier to portray what we're trying to say in our documentary.
Interesting. And what kind of technology or programs do you use when building the documentary or taking a YouTube clip? Are there any specific programs that documentary students should be using? And is there a cost to those, or is it something through your school that you use?
Well, since 7th grade when we started, we've been using a program called WeVideo, and so far, I mean, it was fine for middle school and stuff in 9th grade, but it's had a lot of technology problems and glitching, and it's been, I don't know, we're not a huge fan of WeVideo, so we're going to be moving on to paying for our own professional video equipment like Adobe Premiere, which is something we have to look into to see if our school could fund that. But when we use WeVideo, our school did pay for the premium account for that.
Yeah, and it was good because we had a ton of experience with it. So even though WeVideo compared to other video editors is like pretty limited in what it can do, we had spent so much time working with it at this point that we can make do with the little features it does actually offer.
That's great advice. So for those who are watching this video and you're interested in doing a documentary, but you're curious about what programs are available, make sure to touch base with your teacher or your school's IT department to see what programs are available at your school and what could be funded or provided for you at your school. So thank you so much, Kaelee and Alivia. That's great advice. All right, documentary production. All entries must be student produced. Only those students listed in the group may participate and provide the narration, voiceover, or dramatization. You must operate all equipment, including all editing equipment used in the production of the documentary. Your entry must be an original production, using materials created by others specifically for your entry is prohibited. You may use professional photographs, film, recorded music, etc. within your presentation. However, you must give proper credit in the credits at the end of your presentation and in your annotated bibliography. When you guys are putting together the project, when you're putting those photographs together and kind of creating an outline, what is your process for developing that flow for the documentary? Do you develop a script? Are you sharing a Google Doc with all the photos in the row? How do you plan to build your documentary?
Actually, given the way that WeVideo works, we collect our photos in a Google Drive folder, which is way better. We don't just share documents, we share entire folders with folders upon folders in it. And we try and keep everything organized. Numbering our documents helps a lot. But we write our script first. We don't really do like a timeline. We kind of do the script and have a general idea of what sort of topics are going to be popping up in the script, so we know kind of what pictures we're looking for to throw in there. And usually we don't have enough pictures on the first go around, and we have to go back and look for pictures where we have holes in our script. But yeah, when we write our script, we generally start with like long before and then shortly before. We follow the general NHD like process. So we do long before, shortly before, and then we call it the meat and potatoes, the part in the middle, and we split that into several parts usually because that's the longest part. And then we do our shortly after and long after.
That's awesome. So do you guys have any influencers that you watch? Did you, maybe watch a documentary and say, ooh, we like how he zoomed in on that photo? And would you have any suggestions for other History Day students in this category to watch? Or maybe there's a specific documentary that you liked and you wanted to maybe use some of those ideas in your documentary. Anyone that you think is a great influence in the documentary category?
I personally can't think of a specific person, but what we have found ourselves doing is going through the old winners of like past winners from NHD documentaries, and we've just been watching theirs and writing notes about what they included in like the visual effects that we liked.
And it's even funny, like even if you're just watching like a movie with us, we'll be sitting there like, oh, didn't really like that panning shot. No, they should have used something else.
We've found ourselves to be very judgy of movies now after doing
we're like, no, I don't think I would have done that. They should have set it up from the other side or whatever. We do a lot of that now, and we've gotten really good at developing that eye to know if something visually looks good or if something just doesn't work.
So really, it's a lot of watching of other documentaries and kind of recognizing the different tricks and skills and how they've highlighted certain resources. Would you say that's correct?
Definitely.
Yeah, and realizing, like, do you want to actually watch this whole documentary or do you want to duck out halfway? And if you want to watch the whole thing, why is that? You have to really sort through, put your finger on it. Like, what is it that we need to have that makes me want to keep watching this?
That's incredible. Well, are there any of, tricks such as, like if you have a newspaper clipping and you want to highlight a certain section for the viewer to better understand, are there any, tricks or suggestions like that you could share with our students?
We do actually do the historical document thing. That's something you can do. It helps mix it up from just using pictures and videos to like throw a document in there and have the people actually read what's happening. That can just be done with really basic picture editing, and like Pixlr is just what I use because it's free. So yeah, that can just be done really easily. You can just, I don't know, I can't really describe it very easily.
Well, like layering can be really cool. Yeah. Instead of just having picture transition, maybe a video, like instead of just layer it, add like different transitions or picture over picture, or just have different arrays of things to make it more interesting.
That's incredible. So let's say you're going to go interview someone and you want the clip to be in your documentary. How would you go about that? Do you film with your phone and then you can insert that clip, or what would be the smoothest transition?
We're old school, so we bring a tripod and a video camera. And yeah, we didn't do interviewing this year. but we have in years past. And yeah, so we just bring, we usually just, we bring our tripod and our video camera, we set it up. You don't want to not have a tripod because it'll be way too shaky and your interview will not look good. And then you want to make sure your audio is pretty good. Like the audio on our video camera is pretty decent. And, you know, even with interviews, even if your audio is pretty good, it's always helpful when you have an interview to put in what they're saying, because sometimes just the different voices, it just doesn't line up well and people can't tell what they're saying. So it's usually helpful to have
like subtitles.
Yeah, subtitles.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the time requirement. Documentaries may not exceed 10 minutes in length. You will be allowed 5 minutes to set up and 5 minutes to remove equipment at the contest. Timing begins when the first visual image appears and/or the first sound is heard. Audio and visual leads will be counted in the time limit. Timing ends when the last visual image or sound of the presentation concludes. So that's including credits. And just a small note here, use your setup time to prepare your documentary for the presentation, adjust volume, etc. So just a curious question I had was, do you guys practice showing the documentary, or how do you prepare for contest with your documentary?
Backups like up the wazoo. Like you want flash drives and
backup flash drive.
Yeah, like so many ways. We've got YouTube links and we video links, and we even had a CD. We don't even know how to use it, but we have it if we need it. Like you need to come up with so many backups just to make sure nothing goes wrong. And I don't know, like
that's great.
Definitely have ways to back up your stuff.
And we show it to teachers sometimes, or even just our friends and families, just to see what they think and see if they have any notes. And also, and then that adjust the volume thing. It's better for your documentary to be too loud than for it to be too quiet, because if it's too quiet, your judges are completely lost, and that's just not good. But if it's too loud, you also don't want to be the person though whose documentary you can hear all the way down the hallway, because we've been to a couple of those, and
and we feel so bad for those judges because I bet they're trying to be so nice, but it's probably so loud for them.
Oh no. So my last question on this slide too, how do you guys know that you're staying within the 10 minutes in length? Do you time it? Is it a part of the program? How do you make sure that you're abiding by these rules?
We video just has it right on there. You can see on your timeline that you're within 10 minutes. And generally we try and leave like a second or two like of space, because sometimes when you upload to YouTube, for some reason it likes to add an extra second. So you might want to give yourself a little bit of space as you're moving it, just so it doesn't look like it's over 10 minutes.
But make sure you fill up all those 10 minutes. Don't stop at like 8 minutes. Like
don't stop at 9. Fill everything.
All right. Wonderful. So we're going to move forward onto credits and citing that information at the end of the documentary. So at the conclusion of the documentary, you must provide a list of acknowledgements and credits for all sources. These credits should be brief, not full bibliographic citations, and not annotated. So you're not required to credit individual images or video clips while the documentary is playing. So that's the purpose of the credits at the end. So all sources used in making the documentary must be properly cited in the annotated bibliography. The list of credits counts towards the 10-minute time limit and should be readable by the viewers. So talk to us about your credits. What's the difficult part? What's the easy part? How do you prepare for that? And what's the difference between those credits and the annotated bibliography?
Big difference. Annotated bibliography is super long. So if you used, I don't know, just gonna say an article from like the Washington Post or something, you in your annotation, you're gonna have the link, you're gonna have the date, you're gonna have the author, and you're gonna have your whole paragraph on why you used it, how you used it. Credit, you literally just need the words the Washington Post, and that's plenty. And don't be the person who gets to the end and is like, oh no, I don't have time for credits. You need to plan for that, because if you don't, you're gonna be the person whose credits just like whoop, and there they are.
Yeah, definitely save time for that, because you need to give credit to those sources and everything.
So just to clarify, what's going in the credits is a shrunken version of your bibliography, correct? You're just placing the source that you used. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then the annotated bibliography it also includes the full citation and the couple sentences or the annotation that you're writing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Any other suggestions or advice that you'd like to share on building these credits? So you mentioned not to wait to the last minute, which is a great piece of advice, but anything additional that could help students piece this together?
Rolling credits are cool. People have trouble figuring them out sometimes, but it is cooler to have rolling credits because then it's like a real movie. So if you have the time, it's worth figuring that out. It's just those tiny little details that just make it look more professional.
Right.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move into the required written material. So for each category, you have to have a process paper and an annotated bibliography. So the process paper describes how your topic relates to the National History Day theme. You need to explain your historical argument, and you need to explain why you chose the documentary category and how you created your project. So let's talk about the process paper first. Is this something you both work on? So do you split the process paper? How do you organize it within a group?
Well, we just kind of write it together. Sometimes we each make our own draft and combine the two. But I'd say the most important thing to put in it is some sort of tie you have to the project. Like something that compelled you to go to the project. I don't know, something that ties you to the topic that you're doing.
Yeah, some sort of like personal connection really helps. And just, I don't know, that's like your time to be honest, but it's also, and I'm just saying that it's also kind of your time to like brag. Like, hey, we went out and got these really cool interviews. Like, look at this. Draw the judge's eye to something really cool that you did when you were making your project.
That's great. I like that word brag. The process paper is the time to do that. Absolutely. So the annotated bibliography is a list of sources that contributed to your research, organized by primary and secondary sources. It includes the sources of visual, audio material, and oral interviews, bundled photos, and other materials from the same collection in a single citation. Annotations must explain how you use the source. So talk to us about your bibliography. I can hear from both of you that this is not something you wait to the last minute on, since you have a lot of experience. How do you keep your bibliography organized? Do you just, as you're working on the project, enter it into a shared Google Doc? Walk me through your process of building this.
We do ours on Noodle Tools, which is very useful and totally worth it. If your school doesn't have it, like, it's really worth it, because it will keep, you can put your citation in there, it makes your citation for you, and you can write your annotations right into that. And when you're done, you just export it to a Google Doc. The whole thing is there. It's already formatted and you don't have to mess with it at all.
Fantastic. And I'm just curious, how many times did you have someone edit your materials, your process paper and your bibliography?
A lot.
That's a good answer. Yes. So is this something that you work closely with your teacher on, or do you just submit to her to have a couple times of review?
We usually review ourselves and then we give it to her and she looks over it and then we fix it and then we look over it together and then you go back.
It's a lot of back and forth and, hey, can you look at this one part? Okay, thank you.
Or like, you forgot a date here. There's just our bibliographies are always so long. Like they can get around like somewhere, I don't know, they can be like 30 pages long easily.
So these two items, would you say these are something you start working on right as you start researching your project?
Yeah, the minute you use a source, you put it in there.
Fantastic. All right, additional assistance in any category. We have a couple opportunities here. We have Insider Tips webinar series, which this specific video is a part of, where you can learn about different categories within the National History Day program. We also have Ask a Librarian. So if you need help looking for resources on your topic or you have specific questions, please submit your questions to Ask a Librarian. We also have a mentorship program where you can get paired with a National History Day alumni to receive feedback before a district contest. But for all of our wonderful additional assistance, please visit National History Day in Iowa Getting Started webpage. And as always, if you have any questions about National History Day, the documentary category, or any of the written required materials, please send me an email or give me a call. We are here to help you. And I just want to say thank you so much, Kaelee and Alivia, for joining us today and answering our questions about the documentary category.
Yeah, you're welcome.